Okay, so thank you for hanging in there through 4.3. Remember, there are two videos for that section. I know that's a little bit tougher information, but this 4.4 will be not quite so bad because this is just an overview of cellular respiration. So cellular respiration is going to happen inside of the mitochondria. And this is the overall process that converts sugar into ATP. And this is a process that is going to use oxygen. So cellular respiration is going to convert sugar into ATP. It uses oxygen, and it happens inside of the mitochondria. So again, cellular respiration makes ATP by breaking down sugars, and so this is going to break down sugar products, which of course are carbohydrates. Cellular respiration is aerobic. Anytime you see that word aerobic, no matter if it means exercise or if you're talking about cellular respiration, it's always going to mean that it requires oxygen. So aerobic means that it requires oxygen. This, again, takes place inside of the mitochondria. I've already said that. And this is just an electron microscope colored picture of a mitochondria. So we have the whole cell here. This dark bluish purple area is what? Of course, it's the nucleus, right? And the mitochondria are all of these kind of roughly bean-shaped or oval-shaped reddish areas here. Let's go back to that for a second. Oops. As you can see, there are a lot. Sorry about that, guys. Let me go back to that picture. There we go. Sorry about that. I just wanted to point out that there are a lot of mitochondria within this cell because it's a very important organelle for the cell and for the overall organism. All right. So first, this process called glycolysis must occur. And this is an anaerobic process. So the overall process of cellular respiration is aerobic and requires oxygen. But this first little step here, this glycolysis, is anaerobic, which means that does not require oxygen. Anytime you see that AN before a word, it means not, or the opposite of, something like that. So anaerobic means it does not require oxygen. This part of the process, the glycolysis portion, is going to take place in the cytoplasm. And remember, the cytoplasm is that jelly-like area that fills the cell and holds the organelles. During glycolysis, glucose, remember glucose is a sugar, it's a simple sugar, and it would be a carbohydrate then, right? So glycolysis is going to split glucose into 2 3-carbon molecules. So this part, we get this 3 carbon molecules kind of like we did back in photosynthesis. So glycolysis is going to split glucose, this sugar, into 2 3-carbon molecules. This portion of the process is going to produce 2 ATP. Okay, so 2 adenosine triphosphates are going to come from glycolysis. And that's what's being shown here in this picture. We have a glucose that has 6 carbon. We're going to start out with ADP, which is going to get phosphorus added to it and become ATP. And so the result of that is that we're going to have, the result of glycolysis is that we have 2 ATP and we have 2 3-carbon molecules. So cellular respiration is like the mirror image of photosynthesis. So everything that happened in photosynthesis is going to happen backwards in cellular respiration. The Krebs cycle is going to transfer energy to an electron transport chain. If you remember, in the last section, we talked about an electron transport chain there as well. So the Krebs cycle portion of cellular respiration is going to transfer energy to an electron transport chain. This part is going to take place inside of the mitochondria, in the mitochondrial matrix, which is all of that area on the inside of a mitochondria that kind of looks like a maze. It's going to break down 3 carbon molecules from glycolysis. So remember, we had glycolysis. At the beginning, there was a 6-carbon molecule. We ended up with 2 ATP and 2 3-carbon molecules. Now, this Krebs cycle portion of cellular respiration is going to take that further, and we're going to break down those 3 carbon molecules from glycolysis. This part is going to make a small amount of ATP, and it's also going to release carbon dioxide. So this is part of that mirror image of photosynthesis. A byproduct of cellular respiration is carbon dioxide, which of course is something that plants need to start their process. Also, we're going to have a transfer of energy carrying molecules that happens now also. So that's what is going on in this picture here, the Krebs cycle. We have here in this top portion, we have 3 carbon molecules from the glycolysis part are broken down in a cycle of chemical reactions. A small number of ATP molecules are going to be made here. Other types of energy-carrying molecules are also made, and carbon dioxide is going to be given off as a waste product. Okay, so we have these 3 carbon molecules coming in to the system, and we have the waste product of carbon dioxide, and we also have a very small amount of ATP that's going to be made here. In the next portion here, there's going to be energy that is transferred to the second stage of cellular respiration, right? And the second stage of cellular respiration is going to start over in this area of the diagram. And here we have energy-carrying molecules from the glycolysis portion and the Krebs cycle are going to enter stage 2 of cellular respiration. And here, energy is going to be transferred to a chain of proteins in the inner membrane of the mitochondria. So we have this energy transfer that's happening into this maze-like structure here. All right, and then finally, we have a large number of ATP molecules that are being made. So that's what's happening, here in the second stage. It's the important takeaway here. A large number of ATP molecules are going to be made, and oxygen is going to enter the process, and it's going to be used to make water molecules. And water and heat are going to be given off as waste products. So the waste products for cellular respiration are going to be carbon dioxide that happens in that first portion, and also water. And then we're going to have the generation of ATP that happens during this also. Or I guess that's a poor choice of words since it's energy. The transformation of ADP into ATP that is going to occur here. All right, so the electron transport chain is going to produce a large amount of ATP. This part takes place inside of that inner membrane of the mitochondria. So again, we have an electron transport chain, not unlike what we saw in photosynthesis. And this is going to take place inside of the inner membrane of the mitochondria. And remember, even though we keep saying that this process is the mirror image of photosynthesis, cellular respiration is happening in plants also. It's happening in plant and animal cells. Energy is going to be transferred into the electron transport chain. So again, that energy is going to enter into the chain. It's going to excite these electrons. They're all excited. They want to move around, and they become very energized. Oxygen also is going to enter into this process, and ATP is going to be produced. Again, water is released as one of the waste products. We already talked about that in the last section. This is just that same diagram, again, that we saw in the last slide. So here's the big thing. Here's the big equation for cellular respiration. We have glucose. Remember, this is glucose. We have glucose and 6 oxygen. So 1 glucose and 6 oxygen are going to react to form, and it's going to be in the presence of some things. We'll learn what that is. So glucose and 6 oxygen are going to react to form 6 carbon dioxides and 6 waters, right? Which just so happens to be things that plants need to get their process started at photosynthesis. Excuse me. The reactants in photosynthesis are the same as the products of cellular respiration. So again, here this is just showing that those are mirror images of one another. In photosynthesis, we have, carbon dioxide and water that are reacting, and they're going to end up forming a sugar and oxygen. Opposite thing here happens in the mitochondria in cellular respiration. We have sugar and oxygen, we have glucose and oxygen that are reacting to form carbon dioxide and water. Here we have light energy entering into the system, and here we have a release of ATP, which is energy, of course, and also heat energy. And that takes us to the end of our overview of cellular respiration. The next section of this chapter will be cellular respiration in further detail and also fermentation. All right, thank you.